We very much appreciate everyone joining us today, and I expect we'll get a few more people coming in over the next couple minutes, but I'm very glad that you are all here to join us today. I am Kristen Lewis. I am the Associate Director of Fellowship Programs at the American Society of Human Genetics, ASHG, and today we're going to be talking about our Post-Baccalaureate Genomics Analyst Fellowship that we have in collaboration with the National Human Genome Research Institute. We have a collection of panelists today here. As I mentioned, I am Kristen Lewis. I am joined by Alana Rupert, if you want to wave. Simona Volpe will be joining us in a bit. Ismail Safi is here. Sarah Anstis and Ben Kubert are also here. So we will be hearing more from everyone in a little bit. But first, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to our organization. As I mentioned, I work for the American Society of Human Genetics. We are the largest professional society for human genetics and genomics. As a society, we strive to promote research excellence, advance policy and advocacy, and cultivate diversity, equity, and inclusion. You may also recognize us from our partnership with Cell Press, where we publish the American Journal of Human Genetics and Human Genetics and Genomics Advances. We just had our annual meeting in Denver this past month, so hopefully you were able to attend or heard some good news coming out of that conference as well. Next year we'll be in Boston, and I look forward to that. Over the past 20 years, we've partnered with NHGRI to build fellowships that help create leaders in science policy. And over the course of those 20 years, we've expanded our fellowship offerings to include education and engagement, communications, and just in the past year or two, opportunities for post-baccalaureates to help prepare them for a future career in genetics and genomics. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ismail for a brief NHGRI overview.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ismail Safi. I am a program specialist in the Division of Genome Sciences at NHGRI. As Kristen mentioned, I'm just going to give a brief overview of NHGRI and what we do. So the National Human Genome Research Institute, NHGRI, is one of the 27 institutes which comprise the National Institutes of Health, which you may know as the NIH. And the NIH falls under the United States Department of Health and Human Services. As the name suggests, our institute is focused on advances in genomic research, which we do by funding researchers in the field and by conducting research at our own labs. The post-bac fellows that work at NHGRI primarily work in our Extramural Research Program, which funds researchers from all over the world. We have a number of really exciting research programs from a variety of disciplines, including genomic sciences, genomic medicine, data science, and the ethical, legal, and social implications of genomic research. As a postbac at NHGRI, you would learn skills related to scientific research management, which is vital for a successful career as a future researcher or a clinician. Fellows will see firsthand how genetics and genomics research is funded and conducted, as well as how its findings are disseminated. Fellows will have the opportunity to directly interact with funded scientists and NHGRI senior leadership, and they'll also have broad exposure to the breadth of projects funded by NHGRI, as well as genomics-related career paths. So thank you for joining us to learn more about this exciting opportunity. If you have any questions about NHGRI, please don't hesitate to drop them in the Q&A or reach out to me by email. And I'll put our website link here so that you can review it after the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ismail. So as we mentioned, today we're going to be focusing on our Genomics Post-Baccalaureate Analyst Fellowship, but that is part of a larger program called the ASHG-NHGRI Genomics and Public Service Fellowships. This is an expansion of the program that I mentioned before, where we focused on developing policy fellows, people who would take their genomics and genetics background and transition into a career in policy, making sure that policymakers had the latest and most accurate information about the rapid advances in genetics and genomics research that was going on in order to make informed policy choices. And over the past year, we have expanded these offerings to include the post-baccalaureate genomics Analyst Fellowship. So this program, the Public Service Fellowships, really contains 4 different fellowship programs in one. 3 of our fellowship programs are at the postgraduate level. As I mentioned, our Genetics and Public Policy Fellowship, our Genetics Education and Engagement Fellowship, and our new Genomics Communications Fellowship. There's one of each of these fellows each year, but today we're focusing on our Post-Baccalaureate Fellowship, the Post-Baccalaureate Genomics Analyst Fellowship, where we have 7 positions available every year to allow for post-baccalaureates to explore the world of genetics and genomics, understand what career options are out there, and really help prepare them for whatever it is that comes next, whether that's graduate school, medical school, a career in industry. We want to help post-baccalaureates figure out where they want to go in their career and how they can get there. So the fellowship basics. Applications are currently open. As you might expect, they are open through January 5th, and they will close at midnight Eastern time. So please be aware of time zones and make sure you get your application in by midnight Eastern time on January 5th. As I mentioned, we have 10 fellows as part of a cohort each year through all 4 of these programs, 5 post-baccalaureate fellows per year at the National Human Genome Research Institute. We also have 2 post-baccalaureate fellows per year at the American Society of Human Genetics, and 1 fellow per year for each of the postgraduate programs. These fellows are 2-year employees of ASHG, and it is full-time employment beginning in July of each year. So why become a fellow? What is this whole post-baccalaureate program analyst thing? What will you be doing? One of the things that I think is really beneficial about this program is that it gives you a broader exposure to genetics and genomics opportunities. It gives you a chance to build your knowledge, to gain experience working in the field. It is not a lab-based fellowship, unlike some of the other post-baccalaureates that are out there, but it really gives you that opportunity to get that exposure to a much wider variety of research and advances in genetics and genomics. You'll get to learn about different career paths. One of the major benefits of the fellowship is a colloquium series that is put together by Eric Green, the director of NHGRI, and a committee of experts to help bring you amazing teachers and professors and researchers and industry leaders and communicators to provide a colloquium series roughly twice a month, specifically designed for the fellows. These programs include at least 10 minutes on that particular speaker's career path, so you get to see how other people have moved through their career. It is not always a straightforward path from undergrad to grad school to the job that they have for the rest of their life. So if being able to understand how people got where they were, understand that there are a wide variety of zigs and zags that you can take in your career path, really help open people's eyes to the world of what they can do within the world of genetics and genomics. And I think that's one of the really key benefits of this program is you get that exposure and you can help decide what you are or are not interested in. You get to build your professional network. In addition to all of these experts that we bring in for our colloquium series, you are also going to be working primarily in the Extramural Research Program, as Ismail said. And this is the core of NHGRI that funds external researchers. NHGRI has a large number of research consortia, research projects that it funds, centers, resources, all sorts of things. And as a program analyst, as a post-baccalaureate fellow, you will get exposure to meet a wide number of these folks. You will be able to build your professional network among people who are already established, but also importantly, you get to build your professional network with people in the same position as you. We have a large number of program analysts. Beyond the fellows, there are professional staff at NHGRI who help in the program analyst role as well. So you get to meet a large number of people who are in a similar position, trying to figure out what they want to do with their career. Maybe they also want to apply to grad school. Maybe they also want to go to medical school or be a genetic counselor or whatever the case may be. And having that built-in professional network of peers is a wonderful resource as you go on to the rest of your career. In addition to that, we also have a large alumni network of program analysts who have been there before. While the fellowship program is new, the program analyst portfolio at NHGRI is not new. So there are many folks who have done very similar work in the past, and you will be able to access that alumni network to see what people who have gone before you have done and gone on to do. Another thing that you will learn in the fellowship program is how genetics and genomics research is funded. One of the key things about being a scientific researcher is figuring out how to get somebody to pay for your scientific research. Being able to understand how the government funds science, how it selects who gets funding, how it manages funding once it is distributed, is a really core skill for a working scientist. And being able to see the back end of genetics and genomics research funding is really going to be critical to help you get that funding yourself if you choose to explore a career in research in the future. You'll also develop your professional skills. In addition to the colloquium, we'll have regular professional development sessions to help you build your public speaking skills, to help you understand how to write a resume versus a curriculum vitae or CV, how to negotiate, how to apply to grad school. So there will be a large number of opportunities for professional development as well. In addition to the professional development opportunities that we provide, you also get a professional development stipend, so that if there are particular opportunities that you are interested in that are particular to you, you can pursue those and we will help provide funding for that. Every fellow gets a certain amount per year, so that is funding that you have available to help yourself and invest in your future career. The fellowship program really is designed to be a program that helps people grow. It is a training program. It is a fellowship program. We are here to help you become the career, help you have the career you want to have, and help you move forward in that way. And lastly, it's a full-time job with good benefits. Some fellowship programs, you are independent contractors and you are not actually employees. With this fellowship program, you are employees of the American Society of Human Genetics, and that comes with all of the benefits that employees of ASHG get, which includes health insurance, we have vision options, medical options, a 403B for retirement, which is a nonprofit version of a 401k. So there are really useful benefits, again, to help you on that financial side of beginning your career as well. In terms of who can apply, we are focusing this program particularly on soon-to-be and recent graduates from college. You must have completed your undergraduate degree within 3 years of starting the fellowship. So for fellows who will be starting in 2025 for this application cycle, you need to have graduated after July 2022. We are looking for people who have a background relevant to life science and who are interested in building genetics and genomics expertise. This does not mean you need to have particular research in a genetics specific lab. It does not mean you need to have been a genetics major, but we want somebody who has some background in life sciences and has some exposure to genetics and genomics. But what that level of exposure is varies widely among our fellows. We're also kind of looking for people who aren't quite sure what they want to do with that interest. If you do know what you want to do, great, apply to. Tell us your story, tell us what you want to do. But it is also perfectly acceptable to say, I think genetics is cool, but I don't know what I want to do with that. This is a great program for you because as we were talking about, you get to explore a wide variety of subdisciplines, a wide variety of career options. So you can really sort of see and try on a lot of different things and see like, oh, this scientific area really interests me. I want to focus here. Or I thought I liked this, but after talking to people, no, this is not for me. So that is a really great opportunity here. And then lastly, you must be legally able to be employed in the United States. We do allow for non-citizens, but you must have a visa that already allows you to be employed. This does include things like OPT for our international students, but it does not include tourist visas or a general student visa necessarily. We are not immigration experts, and we cannot provide legal advice on your immigration status, but you do need to have a visa that allows for full employment. Okay, before I turn it over to Alana, Ben, and Sarah, I just want to remind people that you can put questions in the Q&A section, and you can also raise your hand when we get to the question and answer stage later in the program. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Ben, Alana, and Sarah to talk to you a little bit more about their experience being program analysts.
Thank you, Kristen, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, I'm Alana, and we're about to get into what a program analyst actually does and what this job entails. Did I click? Okay. Hi, I'm Alana again, and I just started at NHGRI in September. I am actually part of the first cohort of fellows, so yes, and I am working on the ethical, legal, and social implications team at NHGRI. I'm also working with the Genomic Medicine Working Group, and I have a bachelor's in science and biomedical sciences.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Anstis, and I'm a second-year PA, so I started in June of 2023. Like Alana, I'm also on the Ethical, Legal, and Social Implications team, as well as the Impact of Genomic Variation on Function program, and I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry.
Awesome. And hi, everyone. My name is Ben Cubbert, and I am also a second-year program analyst. I was hired back in May of last year, and I work on the small business and our genome technology programs as well, or our technology development. And I have a master's in biotech.
All right, so now I'll go over a few of the day-to-day tasks that you could expect to do in this role. So every day looks a bit different depending on what's needed by different programs. So that helps keep it interesting, and it's one of the things that I love about this job. So our main job is to help the program directors to manage consortium and program research. So we do this by coordinating program activities, so things like taking official minutes at meetings, creating summaries that kind of encapsulate the key points discussed at scientific meetings, and organizing agendas that will push the programs forward, among other tasks. We also get to attend staff meetings where we get to learn about wider institutional or division-wide activities that we might not necessarily be working on ourselves. There's a ton of different programs that are funded by NHGRI, so it's exciting to hear about all the different science that's happening that we might not be directly working on. So we also help with organizing and attending scientific meetings. These are often with program awardees, so that's pretty neat. Here we get to learn about the science that we are funding, as well as meet some of the investigators and do networking. And a side note, another bonus of these meetings is you get to go to some pretty cool places. I've been to St. Louis, Nashville, New York City, and Seattle, so there's a decent amount of some neat travel that you could do. Another task of ours is doing program or portfolio analyses, so looking at the types of research getting funded by our different programs. This is a great way to improve on your analytical skills as well as presentation and writing skills. Another side note, I'm actually currently writing up a paper that I will hopefully get published based on one of the program analyses that I did. So that's another opportunity that could come up for you. Next slide. Some other tasks that you get to do are posters or other individual projects based on topics that interest you. So some people present on posters on their program analyses or overviews of the type of science funded by their program. And we get to show these posters every year at the NHGRI Symposium and sometimes other scientific meetings as well. Another task is coordinating budget discussions, where you get an inside look at how funding decisions are made and how funds are allocated among different important scientific research. And finally, we help keep track of standard operating procedures to pass on to the next cohort of fellows. These are often updated as we streamline our workflows and figure out ways to be more efficient in our work. So these include things like how to take minutes, how to run meetings, keeping track of files, and other information on general tasks that we do. So overall, this position provides many opportunities to grow soft skills that will benefit you in whatever career path that you decide to follow. So things like organizing meetings, taking notes, public speaking, budgeting, portfolio analysis, and just learning about grant applications. All of this while allowing you to hear about cool science and explore your possible next steps. So that's what you can expect from this job.
Yeah, so this job has a lot of opportunity for professional development. Something I'm going to speak on at first is the public speaking opportunities. Even though I just started in September, I've already had the opportunity to develop my own abstract and poster to present at the NHGRI Symposium. This symposium is like an internal meeting where everybody comes together from intramural, which are people who are doing like lab science, and extramural, which is like where we are. And everybody is talking and just getting to know and a lot of networking opportunities. So that was a really good opportunity for me because I was nervous about presenting such a big poster at a conference, but with my nice work team, which we'll talk about work culture in a minute, Sarah's on the team with me. They helped me prepare very well and had a lot of practice sessions, helped me fine-tune my poster, fine-tune my abstract, tell me like what's the best way to present posters to get people interested and not dozing off. So that was really helpful. Also opportunities to go to conferences. As an ASHG and NHGRI fellow, every year you're gonna have a chance to go to ASHG. So I got to go to Denver this year and it was my first time in Denver, and that was an amazing opportunity for a lot of networking. I think the name of the game is networking. It's so many opportunities here, and you'll be overwhelmed with connections. As soon as you say your interest, somebody's gonna say, oh, I know somebody, or I know somebody, and then you're linking with them, linking on LinkedIn, of course. So that's great. And then webinars like this one, I've already touched on developing abstracts and posters. I know all three of us had a poster at NHGRI Symposium, and I know that you get to present that poster at other opportunities. I know I'm going to specifically start working on like an independent project myself soon, so that's going to be another great opportunity. The NIH Training Center, Career Leadership Development. So this is kind of like helping you get more in tune of what your goals are. I know like when I started, I had a broad idea of what I wanted to do, but the NIH has like career counseling, and so does ASHG. Actually, they both have career counseling. They have group sessions where you could talk about the best ways to apply to grad schools. I actually just got an email today about MCAT study sessions, and like you can apply to go to a monthly class about the MCAT, I think. And those are great opportunities, and also opportunities to ask like your program directors about their career paths and like have informational meetings about that. Like if I found somebody had a cool PhD dissertation, I can ask them questions, and everybody here is very open to like talking about their career paths and helping you develop your specific goals. Also with Journal Club is kind of, I don't know if you did this in undergrad or grad school, where you have a research article and it's kind of an informal environment where you talk about a paper and like get to present the paper, but everybody jumps in because everybody is so interested as well. I had the opportunity to lead one of those as well. So those are some opportunities.
Awesome. And then one of the final slides here, I'll touch in, and kind of building off of what both Sarah and Alana said is really the opportunity that the program analyst position grants you. And I'll start first with something we've already talked about a lot, but really diving deep into these conferences that we get to go to. So Sarah mentioned where she got to go. I got to go to San Diego, Las Vegas, and I get to run booths there, meet a ton of different people because my background is small business and tech dev and genome tech. I get to meet a lot more of the biotech, pharma industry people in the private sector or people in research starting their own small labs and looking for seed funding from our small business side because obviously a lot of what we fund is research, but we do have congressional mandates that have us funding small businesses as well. So I meet a lot of really cool people at these conferences, leading seminars sometimes at these conferences. And even if the conference is put on by NHGRI or NIH, there might be opportunities where you can present your own posters and abstracts at these conferences. So there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of fine tuning your own professional skills and things like that for conferences. In terms of publications, Sarah just mentioned one. There are a couple other program analysts that have either participated in or been able to grow their own research through opportunities and talking to people at NHGRI for these publications. I can speak to this next item here, flash talks or lightning talks. This kind of goes hand in hand with posters and abstracts, but both Sarah and Alana had mentioned the NHGRI Symposium. This is a once a year event where both of our intramural, which is our internal research that happens on campus at NIH, and our extramural, or more of our external funding side to NHGRI, where we meet and we present our science. And it's a really, really fun event that happens in November. So it just happened. And this year I submitted an abstract and I got selected to do a lightning talk for that as well. So speaking to an institute of 500, 600 plus people about your science is really, really cool and a way to grow your own skills as well. This next one here is shadowing medical rounds at Walter Reed. So Walter Reed is a medical hospital or military medical hospital in the Bethesda area. And so one of our division directors, she will every month offer to the program analyst to have one join her during her shadowing medical rounds at this place. And so some who have done it, I haven't done it, but some who have said it's a really cool opportunity for those thinking about medical school and things in that sense as well. And then the final thing I'll really touch on here is sort of what Alana and Sarah have touched on as well, which is your exposure in this role to experts in not only genetics and genomics, but science in general. And really people here, program officers, even other program analysts have been at different stages of their career. So they can really help guide maybe your own career options. And you can talk to a lot of different people who probably at one point been in the same position or having the same questions that you're having now. And so I will move on to the next slide here, which briefly talks about our work culture, and I'll allow Sarah and Alana to jump in, but these are just some pictures of a lot of the fun we have together. On the left, we were playing bocce, which I hadn't really played before, but I wasn't very good at. Just a couple of, I think we already showed this picture earlier. And then, we dress up for Halloween, do holiday celebrations, things of that sort. So I don't know if Alana or Sarah, you want to speak more to our work culture, but I'll pass it along to you.
Yeah, I personally was really nervous when starting this job, especially it being more administrative than I was used to from undergrad. But I will just say our work culture is very supportive. For example, Sarah was my program buddy. So that means she kind of was like my big sister in a sense, kind of guiding me through like how to helping me and always being there to listen to me. Like when I either quote unquote complain or feel overstressed, she was always there for me. And just like Ben is always a nice smiling face in the office to chat to, and everybody here is just so supportive. My program directors are so understanding. Like if I'm confused, I'm never nervous to reach out and ask for help. Usually I know some job cultures, they'll kind of like shame you for asking questions or, oh, why don't you know that already? But here at ASHG and NHGRI in total, like I've always felt very supported and not feeling bad for being confused. So that's such a good environment to be in.
Yeah, I will also add, the PAs were a great group of people and we're super close and do fun things like having lunches together. We try to get everyone together as often as we can. It's hard because we work on different programs. But The culture with the program directors is also really great. There's not really a feeling of being kind of like lower, like it really feels like we're colleagues and we're teammates in this and we're working together. So we do a lot of social events just so everyone can mingle, since again there are so many different programs. So we've organized ice cream socials. Usually those happen in the summer. We have a book club. We have an inclusion and belonging discussion group that I help lead. Sometimes we have potlucks. We actually just had a few holiday potlucks together. So there's a lot of opportunities to just chat like socially with everyone and network. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll kick this back to Kristen to lead off our conversation.
Fantastic. Yeah, so now at this stage, we're going to have some moderated Q&A with our program analysts. I've got some questions, but you are welcome to put questions in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll likely get to some of those at the end as well. But first, I wanted to start with Alana as the fellow in the cohort here. Why did you apply to the fellowship?
That's a great question. So the reason I applied, and I don't know everybody's stages in their academic journey, but for me personally, it was my senior year of undergrad. And I'm always the type of person to always have a plan, like this is what I want to do, blah, 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 like step by step. And then it was towards senior year and I started reflecting on everything. And then I was like, maybe I don't know what I want to do. And, I kind of had a quote unquote crisis, and I'm in my professor's office, like, Dr. Mackey, please help. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I know I want to do. I want to work with more policy-based things. I really care about healthcare disparities. I'm not like, I like the clinical side of things, but it's not my passion. So what can I do? And like a week later, she found this fellowship and sent it to me. And I said, seems cool. And I applied, and the rest is history.
That's great. We're very glad to have you. And for everyone or Ben and Sarah who have been program analysts a little bit longer than Alana, how has being a program analyst helped you plan your next career step?
I would love to answer this question because it has had a humongous impact on my next career step. So I came in not really sure what I wanted to do, but thinking that I wanted to be a bench scientist, working in genetics, genomics, something along those lines. It was a very vague idea. So I was randomly placed on the ethical, legal, and social implications team just because that's where help was needed. And I have found my passion here. I'm have found that I don't want to be like a lab, a bench scientist. I'm more interested in, similar to Alana, the policy side of things and looking at how genetic and genomic research has implications on society and specifically how like laws play into it. So I actually have shifted gears and I have applied to law school. So looking into health law and kind of how health disparities play into that. So it's a big shift, but I was able to talk to some awardees who work in the LC program. I was able to talk to other program directors who have been to law school themselves. I was made some connections with some program directors from other institutions and centers and yeah, chatted to them about their experience and my plan. And I just have gotten so much guidance. And yeah, it was a huge shift, but I'm so glad that I found this job because otherwise I would be a bench scientist right now.
I love that for you. That's great.
Yeah, and I can also speak to that. That was awesome, Sarah. In terms of just my career goals, so as I mentioned earlier, this position rewards you with access to so many experts, not only in genomics and genetics, but experts in general. And for the short term, for myself, my career plans have always been to maybe carve out a career in the federal government, maybe transition to the private sector. But like Sarah said, we were randomly placed on some of these programs based on what we talked about in our interviews and where our interests lie. And so I was randomly placed in our small business program, which was a program that was going through a huge transition at the time. And so now I've kind of honed in on a lot of these skills and research areas that not a lot of people know about when it comes to small business funding. And I think there's a need in that area, and that's something that I'm hoping to build my career out of. And I've just been really lucky that this job and the people who have surrounded me at this job have given me a lot of advice and guidance and helped me do that as well.
That's great. Speaking of skills, can you go on to tell me a little bit more about a skill that you've developed or grown while an analyst? And Ben, since we were just with you, let's continue.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So something I've always had, or something I've always tended to lean towards being an extrovert. And so this role has really helped me hone in on some of my extroverted skills, and really more so the public speaking aspect, and the ability to do that while analyzing complex scientific material and then being able to articulate that complex scientific material in a larger forum or a more general forum. So I think that's a critical skill where you need in every facet of life, being able to take the complex and maybe simplify it for a larger audience. And I think that's something that this job has definitely helped me with.
Communication is critical in every position, everywhere. Alana or Sarah?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So far, I'm gonna agree with Ben 100%, like getting really complex information and then trying to make it easier for you to understand and finding out like what's the important details and including notes has been an important skill, because for me personally, I am not an organized person. Well, before this job, I was not an organized person. You did not want to see my notes in undergrad. So that is something that I had to like really learn how to clean up notes and take better notes. Also, just being organized in general, because there's no deadlines or homework assignments. So it's kind of like you have to on your own time figure out what is important, what is a hard deadline, how to best manage your work. So time management. And also writing emails. That is something that kind of scared me when I first started. Like I used to always send my emails to my mom, which is kind of funny, but like, hey, is this good to include or not to include? So that is something that I built a lot as well. So a lot of those soft skills are really really important here.
I still get feedback from friends when there's a critical email sometimes. You know, it's important to have people provide input and have a second set of eyes.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I would love to add on to what Ben was talking about with public speaking. So I came in super duper shy, super quiet. It was hard for me to kind of jump in and get involved in things. And I feel like with this job, I've just been encouraged to grow so much with that in public speaking and leadership, taking on leadership roles. So like I briefly mentioned before, we have a book club that I've been helping run and kind of organizing speakers for those and running the calls, as well as an inclusion and belonging discussion group, which is, I mean, the culture of the group, it makes it easy to be in a leadership position and kind of step outside of your comfort zone. I've presented at journal clubs. So all of these opportunities to kind of push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone with tons of encouragement, that's been a skill that has been super helpful to me and has grown so much.
I love this. Thank you so much. I think at this stage, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is how to actually apply to the fellowship, and then we'll finish up with some broader Q&A. So if you've been saving a question, you know, go ahead and throw that in the chat or be ready to raise your hand when we get there. So for applications, a reminder that applications are due by January 5th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow the links on ASHG on our fellowship page, or go to apply.ashg.org. To apply, you will need an ASHG account, but note that membership is not required. I know it gets a little confusing because you need the ASHG login, but that is simply a free account that provides you access to our application system. I will also note that applying is a two-step process. We have our primary application through OpenWater, but there is a second link in there to provide a secondary application, which provides demographic information that is entirely separate from your application that gets reviewed, but it is an important part in making sure that your application is complete. I will be sending out reminders to people who have done one or the other, just to make sure that everyone knows where they are, but please do read the prompts carefully and make sure that you are completing the entire application package. In terms of the application questions, we have a number of short answers, up to 400, 500 words for most of these. Really, these are a chance for you to tell us your story. Tell us why you're interested in the fellowship, what your interests in genetics and genomics are, any research experience you've had, or any particular events or classes in your background that you think prepared you for this fellowship. And then we want to hear a little bit about how you think this will help you either figure out where you want to go in your career or help you crystallize your plans. You know, if you know you want to go to grad school but aren't quite sure what your topic wants to be, maybe this will help you narrow down your topic. Or maybe you want to explore broadly and you have no idea. That is fine. Just tell us how you think this program will help you figure out what's next or prepare for what's next. And then we want to hear about a time you had to manage a project. How did you organize it? What did you learn from this leadership or organizational role? And this can be anything. It does not need to be genetics or genomics related. It could be a thing that you volunteered for. It could be a group project that you managed in class. Whatever the case may be, tell us about something that you helped manage. These are really great opportunities for you to show off your personality, to tell us why you want this fellowship, because that is a critical part of the application, is letting us know who you are and how we can help you. Because if we don't know how we can help you, it's going to be harder for us to see you as a fellow and, you know, understand why you want to be here. In terms of additional application materials, you know, we have standard candidate information, contact information. We ask for an educational history, you know, where you've been to school. We only need colleges. And if you are in a master's program or have done a master's program, we want to know about that as well. A CV or resume, and then contact information for 3 professional or academic references. We don't contact them up front, but we contact them farther down in the interview stage of the process. In terms of the selection process, I just want to give you a brief overview so nothing is a surprise. We start with our eligibility and completeness checks. Those tend to go on from the moment you apply until applications close. I'm keeping a close eye on all of the applications that come in and say, hey, you're missing a thing. Hey, are you sure you're eligible? It looks like you might have graduated, you know, 5 years ago. So I will be in conversation with you if an application is incomplete or you don't necessarily appear to be eligible for the program. In January, we will have an initial review of all of the applications that come in. This will be done by more than one person, so you get multiple sets of eyes on your application package. And from there, we select a set of potential fellows to have a screening interview. This is a short interview that will start happening in late January if things move quickly, or in early February. And then we will be having a second set of interviews in February to March, depending on the time frame. This is going to be a longer interview, more like an hour as opposed to a half hour. And you'll get a chance to meet a number of different program directors. They'll have questions for you, but you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions of them, because interviews are always a two-way street. We want to make sure that we have a chance to answer your questions as well, because we want to encourage straightforward communications across the board and make sure that everyone knows what they might be getting into with the fellowship and with the potential candidates. So from March onwards, we extend offers, and then we begin the long process of federal background checks. Federal background checks are complicated, as I'm sure everyone else on the panel can attest to today. They take a while, but they are a critical aspect of ensuring that you are able to work for the federal government and get access to federal government systems and data. And then we announce our selections in late spring, depending on how the background checks come back. Yeah, so that is our application process writ large. Just a few tips for your application. I encourage you to prepare and save your application materials outside of the application system. You know, copy down those questions and spend some time thinking about your answers in Word. Make sure you'll fit the word count for each question. That gives you a chance to take some time, and in case anything goes wrong with the tech, you always have a backup copy. Plus, you never know when you might want those answers for something else that you end up writing or doing with your fellowship time as well. We also encourage you to proofread your materials. It is always frustrating when you see an excellent candidate and then something is riddled with typos. You're like, oh no, please don't. You know, a typo here or there is not going to kill you, but we encourage you to proofread your materials and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Highlight relevant experience in your materials. You know, if you have something where you have done some scientific administration or helped manage a little conference or helped do any of that, you know, tell us what you think is relevant in your story to the fellowship. And then again, we want you to tell a compelling story. I want to know who you are and why this fellowship might be right for you. So tell us how you can see this fellowship guiding your future career, whether or not you want to know what you want to do next. Consider who will be your best references. Ideally, you want somebody you have worked with. Again, they don't all need to be scientists. They don't all need to be your bosses. But have at least one person who can speak to your work in a professional capacity. You know, maybe another person who can speak to some of the work that you've done for, you know, a volunteer organization or whatever the case may be. Maybe a professor you've done great work for in a class. But make sure that they have the information that they need to provide a strong recommendation for you. And then lastly, proofread your materials. And now I do put this on there twice as a little joke because I am that kind of human. So proofread your materials. It is always important, and we encourage you to do it more than once. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. As a reminder, you can either type them into the Q&A or raise your hand, and we can allow you to say your question out loud. I'll give you all a minute before I start with another question, prepared question. These can be anything. They can be logistical questions about the program. They could be questions about work-life environment, any of our personal stories, how we got to where we are. You know, we are flexible people. Okay. As people are potentially typing in their questions, I'm going to kick us off and ask our program analysts about something that surprised them during the fellowship, something that they learned that they didn't necessarily anticipate as a program analyst. Does anyone have anything to start off with there?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, so one of the cool things that I didn't necessarily expect with this role, obviously, you don't expect a lot of things when you come into a new role. But as I've grown in this, it's how exciting it can be to watch your institute or even NIH make positive real world changes and having the chance to play a vital role in doing so. So participating in these programs, you may see a lot of numbers, you may see a lot of day-to-day stuff, but at the end of the day, you're working towards goals and metrics and things that will help people fund research that will in turn save lives, improve human health, and increase our understanding of the human genome and genetics as a whole. So I think that was the surprising part, is how exciting it can be to realize and take a step back and be like, oh wow, like I'm in this organization or I'm part of the federal government that's making real change. And I think that's really important. So that's what I got.
I can add on to that. So one thing that I found surprising and wasn't quite expecting just because I hadn't thought of it was the amount of networking that we're able to do in this job. Most program directors are super happy to meet with you just to talk about how they got where they are, their academic journey, anything like that. And not just the program directors, but also a lot of the awardees, whether that be, sitting down to lunch together in the middle of a scientific meeting, or staying after a few minutes after a call to chat about how they got where they are, anything like that. And I really encourage networking wherever you go, but this job, it's just an endless source of great knowledge on what you can do with your life.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll follow up. Those are, first of all, those are two great things about this job. So I agree wholeheartedly. A third one I would say is the amount of independence I have, and like how my program directors, like Sarah mentioned earlier, see me as an equal rather than like somebody quote unquote under them. And I really do appreciate that. So in staff meetings, they're looking to us like for our input. And if I don't have input during the meeting, my program directors are asking me after the meeting if I have any input or suggestions or questions, and they really do appreciate that. It's not just asking to ask more than they really want to hear your opinion. So I do really appreciate that.
That's great. Thank you all. And it looks like we have a question from Yaya. So you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Yahya Ibrahim Hassan. I'm from Nigeria. So my question is that you made mention of a person to be eligible must finish his undergraduate studies. But during my application, I saw that undergraduates may apply if they expect to complete their degree prior to the start of the fellowship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we certainly encourage people who are in their last year of undergraduate to apply to the fellowship because they will finish their degree before the fellowship starts in July. So as Alana mentioned, I think she was a senior when she applied for the fellowship, and that is perfectly acceptable.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And we have a question in the chat asking about the college graduation within 3 years requirement, and if that is also a requirement for the postgraduate fellowship positions. It is not. The postgraduate fellows do require the completion of an advanced degree of some variety before the start of the fellowship. So again, you either have to have your master's or a PhD completed, or I suppose a JD completed before the start of the fellowship in July 2025. And I know sometimes with graduate school, timelines can be a little bit trickier and a little different. So as long as you expect to graduate by then, we can work with you. I hope this answers your question. Please let us know if it does not.
Yes, of course.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions from the group gathered so far? Okay. I'll ask one more as a closing question in case others come in. I'm curious what your advice would be to somebody who wants to apply to the fellowship or to become a program analyst.
Just being your genuine, authentic self in the interviews and in your essays. I think if this is the place for you, it will show in your application. So
I do love having a good, genuine response. We're all humans, and I think it's important to be human at your workplace too. We are not robots.
Yeah, I'll also say the interviews are a really important part of it. But again, the PDs, the program directors, they're very, very nice people. They'll try their best to make you feel comfortable. So it seems intimidating, but try to take a breath. And yeah, like Alana said, just be yourself and kind of let your personality shine through, and it will be okay.
Yeah, I think something to remember is we don't expect you to be experts in all of the things before you even start the job. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the job. You know, this is a training program, so we want to know where you're at, but it is not a condemnation if you don't know the latest and greatest research in genetics and genomics. You're not supposed to know that coming out of undergrad necessarily. So we just want to know who you are, what you're bringing to the table, what it would be like to work with you.
Yep. And I can round out this question just by saying, you know, even beyond the interview process, if you're a new program analyst, if you start your role, outside of your day-to-day tasks, there's a lot, and even within them, there's so much flexibility to make an impact and also grow your career. So my advice would be to go outside of your comfort zone, sign up for things that you may have initially maybe been hesitant to take on, and also never be afraid to speak up if you have ideas on how to improve a process. Because as Sarah mentioned, lean on your program officers, your program directors, because they're always going to support you and your ideas on how to improve the institute. And if it's not here at NHGRI, wherever it may be. So that would be my advice.
That's great. It is learning to move beyond your comfort zone is a learned skill, certainly, and opportunities like this are great ways to practice that skill. So thank you for that. As we wrap up, I just want to put an email in the chat. If you have questions about the fellowships, you can always reach us at fellowships@ashg.org. If there are any questions that you have for the panelists, I can forward those questions on to the respective people. Otherwise, you will be reaching me if you reach out to fellowships@ashg.org. And I am always happy to talk about the fellowship program, answer any questions that you may have about the application process or what it's like. And I very much appreciate all of your attention today. If you have any final questions, please don't hesitate to send them my way. And I look forward to seeing all of your applications, whether for this fellowship or another one, now or in the future. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I look forward to hearing from you all later. Have a great afternoon.